And good morning, everybody. It's Dan Latto speaking. It is the 3rd of April. These months flying by. We're now in Q2 of the year 2019. Hope your Q1 went very well. In this podcast, I'm going to talk to you about the 4 different personality types which will determine your success. Now, whenever we go for 4 personality types or 4 reasons for this, there's always exceptions, okay? So I know you're going to argue, exceptions to the rule, okay? So let's just kick straight off. Let's go through them. So the first personality type, and I've not written anything down on this one, so I need to remember them. So the first personality type is there's 4, okay, and you need to listen to all of them to see which one you are. So the first one is what we call external. An external person is a person whose actions are based on how other people, solely on how other people perceive them. So, it's quite rare to find people like this, but you know the types that I'm referring to. The next level of personality is you'll probably relate more to, but a particular one, this is a person who won't do anything unless it's based on what other people think of them. So like bunnies, people work at the gym, 3 times a day, and have to drive the flashiest car and have the tan, even though it's going on the sleds and that kind of thing, to get a tan, an all-round tan, and they turn orange. A really good example of this, actually, is probably Made in Chelsea type people. Everything that they do is based on external. However, it's more based on the next type of personality, the second type, which is what we call external, but with an internal. So this is where these people are, they do things based on how other people perceive them, but also it has to make them feel good as well. So check internally to go, is this actually what I want? And most people are like this actually on TV programs. That's external with an internal check. I'm going to do all this stuff that makes me look good. I'm going to have a Ferrari, I'm going to have an all-round tan. I'm not external with an internal check. And I kind of wonder whether this changes over time, because I used to be more external, i.e. I used to care more about what people used to think, or about what people used to think much more before than I ever do now. So that's external with an internal check. So is that you? Do you make decisions based on what other people will think, and then it has to coincide with what you want, and then you go do it? Or are you the third personality type? The third personality type is what we call internal with an external check. Now, this is all me for sure, okay? So I'm definitely internal. I tend not to care what other people think, what people say. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I get really upset by comments or that kind of thing. But as I've got older, maybe with the introduction of social media over the last year, I've really changed to give less of a fuck about how other people think of me. So if you think I'm an idiot, that's awesome. Well, that's brilliant. I love it. Awesome. At least you're thinking of me. So, I tend not to care because other people's opinions aren't worth in terms of my opinion. Okay, and hopefully you that too. Because if other people's opinions do have salt, whatever that means, if they have power behind them, other people's opinions that have no idea what goals are, what you ultimately want, what your deepest desires are, they will determine your actions. Crazy when you think about it. So for me, being internal with an external check actually more aligned to being successful than all of the others. Okay, so internal, I wake up one morning and I go, right, I'm going to go do this. And then I justify that decision based on an internal check. And then at some point I might go, how will that look external? So like, I'm trying to think of a decision that I've made where there's a very internal decision. So we've got people that we want to, people in certain jobs, legal professions, anyone who works at Leeds City Council, and we've got reasons for that. Okay, Leeds City Council can go screw themselves. If you want to treat landlords like that, that's okay, but these are the consequences. So like that internal decision, and then part of that is how does that look from other people? I tend not to care about that. People will go, well, that's not very fair. That's just life, not fair anyway. So, as I've been on the receiving end of the City Council, so what comes around goes around. So, but if it was, let's go one example, and let's say that it was prejudice against a gender identity, a race, a religion, sexuality. We don't base decisions on purely internal, purely external. Okay, so on those, we go do the right thing, and that's an internal check. So we don't, for example, we don't not rate people of one of those groups on being in one of those groups based on an external check. Well, how will that look if I don't accept that person? An internal check. And a really good example of this is, and I can't remember the woman's name. She's visitor of New Zealand. Is it Lucinda or Linda? I forget her name. And she's definitely internal. She got what she wants, but I think she also has an external check there. She's definitely not external. You know, the whole thing with the apparently shot up a couple of the mosques in New Zealand. She didn't go do the right thing because other people were watching her. She did the right thing because it's the right thing. So that's an internal check. Some people, politicians, good morning, Ryan. Some people, like politicians, are internal with an external check. Okay, I think Theresa May is bordering on insane, bordering on purely internal, but she has some external checks. Not she's so focused on ruining the country, and no matter what other people tell her, she's totally focused because it's the will of the people. She keeps saying, so she's totally focused on that. So let's completely to the extreme, and let's talk about internals. Like, you know, internal. Donald Trump is a great example of an internal. I think Donald Trump has such little external that it wouldn't even register. Now, could you actually certain personality traits? Could they be narcissistic, nihilist? Could they be sociopaths, psychopaths? Probably. You know, being a psychopath sounds dreadful, but actually being a psychopath, not all psychopaths are murderers. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that when you go to such extremes that it's just pure bad. Like, it'd be just internal. Like, a really good example of an internal is Elon Musk. He's a good example. He's also got some external checks that he makes as well, because he'll make some decisions and then he'll retract decisions, like closing down all the Tesla stores and then affected price, and then he opened them again. Or it didn't actually close them and open them, but his decision was to close them and he changed his mind not to close them. So that was a very internal decision with an external check, but like a very small external check. But you've got two sides of the extremes there. You've got Donald Trump, who's very internal to anybody else, including opinions, and then you've got Elon Musk, who also is very, very focused. You know, his number one goal is to get to Mars. The reason we have electric cars right now, two reasons. One, to develop the technology, and two, to develop the cash flow to put into SpaceX. Now, as it happens, now SpaceX, with their multi-billion-dollar contractor, SpaceX is a standalone entity, but without the whole thing, able to raise cash, SpaceX wouldn't have. And also, you know, SpaceX, I think he put 80 million into SpaceX as soon as he sold eBay. So, and the whole reason for eBay was because he's got this vision to Mars. That's like his number one thing, very internal, very few at ease is better. Now, it's not for me to say which is better, which is worse. I know that I'm an internal with an external check, and that's done very well for me. I make a decision on what I want to achieve, and then I go do it. Sometimes I might listen to third parties, sometimes that upsets me, and other times I just simply don't listen. Like, you know, I might write something and I purposely don't go and read the comments because I'm not interested in what other people think sometimes. And you might go, well, that's very egotistical or centrist. And you're right, it totally is. It's completely egotistical, completely centrist, because other people's opinions aren't worth shit. Right? So like that can offend people. It can really offend people. Or you can embrace it and go, got a fair point. How many times have you said, well, I'm going to go do this? And then Sus goes, oh, no, you don't want to do that. Oh, no. Mate, man, he was going to do that, and it didn't turn out well for him. This is the pizza boxes on the wall when we're going to go be an investor story that we've covered many times in podcasts. You know, that once stopped me from going and being a property investor, and that would have changed my entire life. And I spent yesterday doing nothing. I went to basketball, did a couple of podcasts, went to a basketball court. Didn't really do that much. When I picked up my daughter from school, didn't do much, you know. And that was because my decision-making process was based on internal decision-making, not what other people say. And this was going back 20 years, 5 years, really, before, you know, it took me 5 years to buy my first place. But having this internal, without much of an external check, works very well. Now, the external check, it haven't got an external check. It just means that you've only got an external check from a few people that you trust. Strangers on the internet is not a good basis for an external check. Because, you know, if I like blue, you're going to like red. If I like pink, you like green. Think of a colour. Do you know what I mean? If I say the sky is blue, you're going to say no, it's not. If I say the water's wet, other people say no, it's not. Dry, but because of molecules. Each molecule's a dry molecule, and plenty of them make it wet. Do you know what I mean? There's always someone who's going to disagree, regardless of how ridiculous the argument is. So this has got older, my internal check. You know, is this right for me? So, like, one of the three internal checks that I use, and which really come from Chris Howard, actually. Is it good for me? Is it good for everyone else? And is it ecological? Which I love, by the way. So, does it work? Yeah. Is it harming anybody else? No. Great. And is it equal? Is it harming the planet? Now, actually, sometimes you can't cover that, because sometimes you jump on a plane that is harming the planet, and it's very difficult to live without harming the planet. You know, we all have cars, we all use electricity. Our barbecues puts carbon in the sky. Do you know what I mean? So that's very difficult. But I like that as an external check. One of the other external checks is this person's important? And upon what basis is this person's important? Have they actually achieved anything that's worth listening to? Because, you know, I see it all the time. Just because you have an interconnection and a Facebook or a Twitter handle means you're entitled to an opinion. But that opinion might not be worth shit. Well, what have they done? Well, they're 25 stone overweight, they lived on benefits, they're too fat to... but I've had 3 kids. Like that doesn't take work to have 3 kids. Do you know what I mean? I've got 3 kids. I was there for some of it. Do you know what I mean? End up. But it's, you know, like, so what, you've had 3 kids? You stay and your 3 kids are going to sponge off a stay. Why would I now listen to opinion? It's not worth anything for me. What have you done? Have you built something? Have you created jobs? Have you helped other people, or have you helped yourself? So the external check you've got to be careful with, because you could end up listening to people. I'm really lucky in that I pick and choose who I listen to, and I pick a couple of people and I stick with them. I tend to then reject anybody else's opinion that's not in that level of in that area of expertise. But anyway, there are 4 different personality types. You've got external, you've got external check, you've got internal with an external check, and then you've got purely internal. Let me ask you a question. Which one are you? I'd love to know. Put your comments down below if you've got to in the podcast, and we'll catch up with you in tomorrow's podcast. My name's Dan Latto. Take care.